Okay, so after you guys went out and shot your images and brought them in, you should have 5 to be able to work with to do this exercise. And basically, we're going to pull all the images in. I'm going to start with 3 just to give you guys an idea of what I want you to do and sort of how to do this as an introduction to masking. So if I drag the images in, these are JPEGs, which you guys should have also. I drag them in, here they are in the camera raw dialog box. You can adjust them if you wish. It's not really necessary for right now. I'm going to hold shift down and select them all and then click open images. And these are the ones I've selected. So the first thing you guys want to do is take this tab right here. You'll see your image come up in tabs. Take the tab right here and pull it off. And you're going to take an image and drop it into here. Okay, so this water image I'm going to drop into this bark image. So if I have this over here like that on that tab and I've separated it and pulled it off by holding the left click down, I come into here and I just, as long as I'm on the move tool, which is right here in the top left corner, the shortcut to that is V. As you can see when it hovers over it, there's like V next to it. That's the shortcut key for it. So I'm just going to take my left click and hold it down and drag this into the bark. So I'm going to take this now and reset it back into the interface. You can see where it turns blue like that. And I'm going to drop it back in there so I can work with it down here. So now with the move tool activated or pressed, we can move this like water around, right? So we have 2 images in here and we're going to composite them and put them together. Using a couple different techniques. One's transform, the other one we're going to use is masking, and the last one we're going to use is a blend mode. So those 3 things you should be able to do by the end of this class today. Transform an object, mask it, and then use a blend mode to help blend it and stuff. And you'll see that in a minute. But right now, we're going to come down here and see this in the layers palette. It's called layer 1, and I'm going to click on this twice, and it lights up blue like that, and I'm going to call it water, just so I know what I'm doing and where it's going. And that way I can separate it and know what I'm grabbing when we have multiple layers. So here's my layer. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to look below it to see where I want to set this in this V of this bark. So I'm going to come up here to where the opacity is, and I'm going to drop the opacity down a little bit. I'm going to drag this down just so I can see through it. Okay, now when I move it around, I can see through there and see where it's going to be. So the first technique we're going to do is called transform. And to transform this image, we're going to hit Command T, and now you see the transform box come up. Now if we take our left click and start moving it around and holding left click down, you'll see we can like flatten it like this or squish it like this, and that's not really great, okay, because it damages the perspective. What you want to do is after you hit Command T, you're going to hold shift down, and then you're going to left click and drag, and that makes it so that you can enlarge or shrink this image and not have it damage the perspective at all. Okay, so I'm going to make this pretty big because I just want the water to fill inside there. And I see it right there. Looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Always when you're transforming, you have to hit enter or return when you're done to finalize the transformation. So I hit enter. Boom, it's done. Now I'm going to go back to the opacity. I'm going to bring this up to 100%. And now you see, now we can't see below it anymore. So the important thing about this whole thing is the mask. That's probably the most important part. So what I'm going to do is masking, you guys, is basically just hiding or showing the information or the pixels or the image. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this or I'm going to show it. So right now, if I click and put a mask on it, which is down here on the 3rd tool over on the bottom, you'll see this little square with a circle in it. That's your mask. If you left click on that, a mask pops up and locks to your image. Now this mask is where you make all your adjustments, and the image is safely underneath. It doesn't even affect the image at all. This is called non-destructive editing. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this. I'm going to hide this image by filling this mask with black. So I come over here and make sure on my tools palette that my foreground color is black. If it's white, click this little arrow and put it back to black. It needs to be black in order for this to work. If it's some other color, then hit D for default, and it will change back to black and white. So long as it's on black, we're going to cover this image up by hitting Option Delete when we're on this mask. If you're on the image like this and it's highlighted like that, it will not work. You've got to be highlighting the mask with this little white box around it. So you hit Option Delete, and all of a sudden your image disappears. The reason your image disappeared is because we just covered it with black, and it's like invisible now. The only way to bring it back is to paint white. So we take our little arrows, and we click this back to white. The fast way to do that is, as it says on the little hint box that comes up, is to hit X. X is the fastest way to switch those back and forth, as you can see. So once it's on white, we're going to go to our brush tool, which is right here. It's the 5th tool down. It's called brush tool, and you hit B if you want to go to it fast as a shortcut key. So there's my brush tool. Now if you look up in your brush tool, you see mine, it's pretty small. You can come up here and make adjustments to it. So there's the opacity, and I recommend having sort of a nice big opacity of like 100 when you're really dumping it in and you're really bringing the image up. And then take the opacity and turn it way down when you're blending edges, okay? So I'm going to also look over here, and I want my hardness to be 0 because that's really soft and nice. So the size of it, you can toggle here and move it back and forth, the size of your brush. I do it with bracket keys. So if you look up on your keyboard under the delete key, there's your bracket keys. And if you hit left bracket, it gets smaller, and if you hit right bracket, it gets bigger, okay? I use those, and they're much faster than going up and adjusting your brush up there. So once I've got my white selected, and I've got my opacity to 100%, I'm going to come down here and start painting. And you'll see that I'm painting that water in. Now what it's doing is, all it's doing is I hid the whole image, and now I'm just revealing it. That's it. Okay, the image never left. All I did was hit it, and now I'm showing it, and it's underneath there. So basically what you want to do is that's 100%, and now I can go down to a lesser percent, like I'd say 10, 15, 20, right around there. And if I use the Command plus key to enlarge it, or the Command minus key to shrink it, you'll work on this level back and forth with a small brush with light opacity. Or with a big brush and dump it and bring it in the center. Now you'll see I'm fixing this edge all around here because I really want to be like nice and tight and have it look really, really good and clean, right? So you come through with a real small brush, a real low opacity, starts making it look really nice. So the only problem is, watch, if you screw up and start painting out here like this, and you cover this with water, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just blew it, and I covered this bark, and I did not want it covered. So what you do is you switch back. So you bring your cursor over here, switch it back to black, and paint it back and cover it. So this whole masking thing is all about covering the pixels or showing the pixels. That's it in a nutshell. Okay, so all I did now was hide the stuff I didn't want. And watch, now I got too far, and I'm going to go back on white, and I'm going to put it back now because I got a little bit careless and a little bit overzealous with that crap. Okay, so once I've masked this, I'm going to hit Command minus and shrink it back down. Once I've masked this so it looks sort of nice, and I like my effect, I did sort of a rush job, you guys, with this right now because I'm in a hurry and trying to show you this. So this is what it looks like right now. There's my water. If I undo this little eyeball down at the bottom down here, you'll see there's my original image. And now if I click this and make it visible, here's the image I'm filling in. Now it still looks a little sort of janky to me, right? It doesn't look very nice. And so what I'm going to do next is either you can drop the opacity of this whole layer and drop a little bit, which looks sort of interesting, right? Or I'll put it back. Or you can use blend modes. Now blend modes you find right here where it says normal. If you click on this and scroll down here, these are all blend modes. Okay. Now The fastest way to go through blend modes, I hate using this like this and going through with your mouse. The fastest way, you guys, is to just hold shift down. Make sure you're on the move tool up here. Make sure the move tool is selected. And then if you hold shift down and then hit plus and minus up by your delete key, you can start scrolling through these. So I've done this before, obviously, and I actually liked, I think it was soft light. It was, because I think that's sort of subtle. So scroll through these and see if you like blend modes. They're sort of fun to play with, okay? And they're a nice asset to blend things in. So there's my look of my water in there. Actually, let's change it. I don't even know why I even chose water if I'm not going to really show it. So let's frickin' find a good blend mode. No, that looks ghetto too. This is crap. I'm leaving it there. Too bad. Okay. So there we've got it set to soft light. The opacity is 100%. I've masked out the water where I want it to be into this little crevice. It looks pretty good. So let's add one more element to this. Let's pull this tab off. And I don't need this water one anymore because I've already used it. I'm going to use this face. Somebody went and shot like in the Ayers Art Building and shot this face, and I really like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this image, I'm going to drag it onto my image. There it is. I'm going to kill this because I don't need that anymore. I don't need this anymore because I've already used it. And I'm going to bring this and seed it back when it makes it blue, boom, back into the interface of the Photoshop. Now you can see this layer is over the water and the wood stuff that I liked. It's right here, over it. And I want to actually, I just want this face. I don't want everything else, right? Everything else looks sort of tacky, but I think this face looks really interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a mask. So you'll see that my color back here has changed. It's not white and black anymore. It's blue and black. So I've got to hit D to get it to go back to where I want, to default. And now it's back to black and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this layer face by double clicking and typing face. Good. And now I'm going to click a mask on it. Now, in order to wipe this out, I'm going to fill this mask with black. So I come over here, make sure it's on black on the foreground color. I'm going to hit Option Delete and make sure the mask here is the thing I'm highlighting. Option Delete, and it's gone again. And again now with white, I'm going to show it. So I go to my brush, sort of pick out where that little guy was. Where is he? Right there. And I'm going to just sort of paint him and bring him in, right? Because I think he's sort of cool looking. And he's going to have sort of an interesting thing I'm going to do with him. So there he is. Now I've realized that I need to do some like work around the edges because I need to like make my selection a little better. So I'm going to hit Command plus a couple times to enlarge it. I'm going to scroll up here and I'm going to go, not white, see white reveals it and black will hide it. So I'm going to go back to black and toggle back to black. And then with my brush small, I'm going to come back in here now and start cleaning this up. So I just have his face. I don't want anything else. There we go. Boom. Excellent. All that crap. And I pretty much just got his face. I used my soft brush and it looks okay. Yeah. It doesn't look great, but I'm going to use this over here anyways. So I'm going to grab my move tool and bring him over here. And you can see now the places I've missed, right? Around the edges and stuff when I put them on black. That was a crappy masking job. So if I come back here and go back to my brush, I can clean this up even better. Because now I can really see those areas. There we go. So what I really want to do, after I clean this stuff up, is I'm going to take his face and I want it in this bark right here. But the face is too small. So what do I need to do to enlarge it? Command T. And if I hold Shift down, I can make him bigger. Let's Command minus and bring that down. Hold Shift down. Hold Shift down and make it big. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to take the corner up here and turn it a little bit. Push it in there. And I like it just about like that. So remember, after transforming, you have to hit the return key, which I am now. It finalizes the transformation. Now if I Command plus and bring it back up, I think it looks pretty cool. Except I don't like this. This to me looks I don't know, it just doesn't blend really well. So if it doesn't blend well, we have our blend modes, right? So the fastest way to go through blend modes again is make sure you're on the move tool. Okay, hold shift down, and with your plus and minus keys, start scrolling through them. And try to find one that you like that blends sort of in an interesting way. That looks sort of badass. I like that. That is perfect. What is that? Vivid light? I'll remember that. I'll come back to vivid light. Oh, that looks good too. Soft light, overlay. Let's do overlay. So now look. So now I drag this around here, and it almost looks like it's part of the bark, right? It looks pretty interesting. So this, you guys, is how you start compositing, okay? So you need to transform, which is Command T, transforming your items. You need to stack your layers like this, okay? Bring them in and label them. When you have your image in and your image, you bring your image in. The first thing you do is mask it. Add a mask and attach a mask to it. And then once that mask is highlighted, you make sure your foreground color over here is on black, and then you hit Option Delete, and that'll fill it with black. And then you switch it back to a white brush, and with a white brush you can reveal it, and with a black paintbrush you can paint it back and hide it. Okay, so white reveals it and black hides it. And up at the very top, you can switch your opacity up and down and make it barely paint in or paint in really heavy at 100%. And you can make your brush bigger or smaller by your bracket keys, which are just underneath the delete key. And then make those bigger or smaller. It helps you adjust stuff really quickly. Now you may not see your bracket like this, like as a circle, and if you don't, hit Tab, or sometimes Command, or sometimes Caps Lock keeps it off too and makes it look weird. So once you're done with this, and I'm happy with mine, once you're done with it, you're going to hit Command Shift E all at once. So Command Shift E, and it'll flatten it. You'll see this turns into a background. And that's what you'll be submitting today for homework. Okay, we're going to Command Shift E, and then we're going to save this. So File, Save As. And then we're going to call this MADT 206 Mashup. And then your last name, not mine, right? And then you're just going to click Save. And that's it, guys. Okay. Remember, your guys' self-portraits are due next week. And make sure you turn this in for lab today to get credit. Okay. Awesome.